It's really hard to be the only Catholic in your friend group or maybe even in your family. Maybe you're somebody who is surrounded by Catholics in name only or non-practicing Catholics, or maybe the closest people in your life belong to another denomination. And I've been there, and so I want to share 3 things that have helped me and my husband over the last couple years. The first one is we always go to Mass, no matter where we are. So when we're visiting family, we make it a point to invite them along with us. And then we also make sure to observe holy days of obligation, and that does mean fasting and abstaining from meat. We do it on Wednesdays and Fridays. So when those days line up with family gatherings, or if we're discussing what we're going to do that day as a family, we'll just casually mention it, not in a preachy way, but just in like a normal part of how we live. And then the last thing is that when it comes to conversations, I have learned not to argue or debate. Instead, if somebody invites us to share, or if faith naturally comes up, I give my perspective kindly, lovingly, and truthfully. But I want people to see that Catholicism isn't just the set of rules. It's a way of life that brings joy, peace, and purpose. And I've tried, but you can't argue anyone into the faith. All it does is create walls. And so, in my opinion, what makes a difference is living your faith consistently and joyfully. People notice those things. They notice peace, joy, and conviction. And I feel like they're more drawn to that than to debates. And then the last thing is that you also have to be patient. Conversion is rarely instant. Sometimes it takes years, sometimes it takes a lifetime, but in the meantime, your prayers are powerful. James 5:16 reminds us that the prayers of a righteous person are powerful and effective. So even when you don't see results, just know that God is working. And I share all of this today because it's the feast of Saint Monica, who lived this out perfectly. She prayed for years for her son Augustine, and he went from rejecting the faith to becoming one of the greatest saints and doctors of the church. And she also prayed for her husband, who converted shortly before his death. And none of that stuff happened overnight. It was her perseverance in prayer and her witness as a wife and mother that God used. So if you feel alone in your faith, remember Saint Monica and keep praying, keep living your faith with joy, and trust that God is listening. The same God who turned Augustine from rebellion to sainthood can transform the people that you're praying for too.